Hey guys, what's up? Cardfight here, and today I'm here with another Kagero deck profile. This is the Blazing build for the Blademaster deck, and with the news, I guess it's not that new now. New support from the GPT-11. Blademaster has some pretty decent support, and the Shrine is actually really strong. So this is mainly a deck built around those two cards. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. So for the starting Vanguard, we're running Vibrant Kid Data. So the skill for this card is it has the Blaze ability. Generic 1, retire this unit. When your Vanguard becomes blazing, you can pay the cost. If you do, charge 1, counter charge 1, and draw a card, and then choose one of your units, and it gets plus 3,000 power at the end of turn. So mainly this card's in here because it has the Blaze ability, and you can counter charge. So it doesn't go into soul, so if you're wanting to get some soul charging abilities, this is not the card to do so, but the counter charge and it being a Blaze unit does help. And the 3,000 attack also helps sometimes. Next, we are running 4 of the new Dragonic Blademaster. Dragonic Blademaster Cohen. So skill, it has the Blaze ability, unlike the previous Blademaster. So this skill is counter +1. When a G unit strikes on top of this card, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose your opponent's rear guards and retire it, and choose one of your units with the Blaze ability, and it gets plus 3,000 power. The second skill is Judgment 2. At the end of each return, if your opponent has no rear guards, choose up to 1 grade 3 with the Blaze ability from your drop zone, and add it to your hand. So this does include your opponent's turn, because it doesn't say end of your turn. It just says at the end of each turn. So if your opponent has no rear guards on his turn, then you can still proc his skill. So this makes shredding a bit easier. Clearing your opponent's whole field is not too easy to do all the time, but since you're playing Kagero, it does happen, especially against decks that can't really replenish their field that well. Next, we're running one of the old Blademaster just because I didn't want to run 4 Jargo, and I didn't really want to run 2 of these Blademasters because you mainly wanted to run the new Blademaster, and Jargo is actually a pretty decent rearguard. And it also has the Blaze ability, so that's nice. So Jargo's skill is counter +1, soul +1. When this card is placed on the Vanguard or rearguard circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose from your opponent's rearguards and retire it in the same column as this unit. So yeah, you get a retire one. Of course, you have this counter +1 and soul blast, so maybe you don't want a soul blast if you don't have any more. This deck, not too many things in this deck uses soul, so I guess that's fine. Second skill is Vanguard Rearguard Circle, Generic 1. If your Vanguard is blazing, this unit gets plus 2,000 power for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles in the back row. So you can stack power with this card. If your opponent has no back row, then he'll be a 17k attacker, which is not bad. So, when worst comes to worst and you have no attackers, you just prop them down and you're good to go. So I quite like Jargo, and it's pretty good for a common. So running 3 of those. Next, we're running 4 Mubadi. So this is the rare from the set. Of course, I pulled an SP one because I got the SP pack, but normally it's just rare, so it looks like that. Skill is Blaze. So it has Vanguard and Rearguard Circle has the Blaze ability, and the second skill is Generic 2, counter +1. When this card attacks a Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Blademaster in its name, you can pay the cost if you draw a card, and this card gets plus 2,000 power for each of your opponent's open Rearguard Circles at the end of the battle. So it being a counter +1 for a draw one is quite good, and the extra power also helps. So if your opponent has an empty field, then he gets plus 10k. So pretty decent. Pretty decent. Of course, again, your opponent might not have an empty field, so that can always happen. But there are a lot of ways to get rid of your opponent's units. So you can, potentially get rid of 3 of your opponent's units, at least 3 of your opponent's units that turn, and then you're gonna free up 3 slots, and then you can also discard less cards for not Cohen, for the Shride's ability. Next, we're running 4 of this card from GBD 7. I think it's Nadame, something like that. So he has the Blaze ability, and skill when this card attacks, while your Vanguard's in Blaze, while your Vanguard's blazing, this card gives us 2,000 power and a new skill. So on the Rearguard circle, Dragonic 1, when this card attack hits a Vanguard, you can countercharge 1. So this deck is quite counterblast heavy, so being able to put pressure on your opponent is okay, and it's also 11k attacker by itself, so that's also alright. Against mirror matches, not popping down those 7k boosters might be helpful. So in case your opponent gets rid of it. But there's also a risk to that, because you're also potentially powering up your opponent's rear guards, like Jargo and Mubadi, since they get power when your opponent have empty rear guard circles. But anyway, yeah, mainly it's here for the Blaze ability as well as the counter charge. You will be getting 1 or 2 of these off mid game, so you're going to be getting those heals, and it's also pressure your opponent to discard cards so they don't have to lose more rear guards on their turn, or on your turn or their turn, either or. Next, running 3 of the Glimmbreath clone. So it's the count loss 1, so loss 1 when it's placed in a rear guard circle. If you have a Blademaster, Dragonic Blademaster Vanguard, you might pay the cost. If you do, choose your opponent's grade 1 or lower rear guards and retire it. And then during this turn, this card gets plus 2,000 power. And a new skill, when your Vanguard's in blazing, for every empty rear guard circle your opponent has, this card gets plus 2,000 power. So this card is kind of like Mubadi, except instead of drawing a card, you pop one of your opponent's units, and it does get the power, but he's only there for, he only gets his ability for the turn it's called. So there's pros and cons to this card. Mainly, it's good because you can get rid of your opponent's units with this card, while you can't really do so with this card, but you do get a draw. So I'm only running 3 of these because it does cost another Soul Blast, which you might conflict with Jargo's ability if you need it. So yeah. Next, we're running 4 of the new common Tahir. So it has the Blaze ability, and other second skill is Dragonic 1, counter loss 1 when this card is placed in a rear guard circle. If you have less rear guards than your opponent, then your opponent has to you have to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So obviously you can't use this card whenever. You have to see how many cards your opponent's how many rear guards your opponent has. So up against things like Grand Blue or Pale Moon, this card's not very good, but it usually does pretty well against stuff like Gear Chronicle and Royal Paladin. So I quite like it. The second skill is, if your Vanguard is blazing, this card gets plus 2,000 power. So it's a 9k booster, which helps Jargo out and your other rear guards. You can't quite hit that sweet spot with Nadam yet, but it's okay. And if you give it the 3k to this, then it's fine. So you'll be hitting those decent numbers. Next, running 3 Nadel. I think Nadel. Vanguard Rearguard Circle. This guy's also from GBD 7. So if you're looking for it, you can check that set out. And so it has the Blaze ability, and the second skill is, once per turn, when a opponent's unit is put to the drop zone by a card effect, if you have a Dragonic Blademaster Vanguard, during this turn, you gets a new skill, and that skill is when your Vanguard is blazing, you can countercharge 1, and this card gets plus 4,000 power. So This card is good because you get the counter charge. Again, counter blasting is pretty important. Right, this guy's name is Nadell, and the other guy is Nadim, I think. So anyway, they're very similar names. So yeah, you get to counter charge for free, and you get the 4K, which does help with Nadim. So it's good. Only running 3 of them though, because I do want that retiring power with Tahir. So only running 3 of these. 3 is enough. You only need like 1 on the field. If you get 2, that's fine too, I guess. All right. And then running 3 Strive Fodders. I don't really have space to run a 4th one, since I kind of want to run 4 of these, since I want that retiring power. And there is a grade 2 version of it, but I rather play Nadim over that card. And yeah, for Pro Guards, we're running 4 Pro Guard Gs. The unflip guard, you can run the new one if you want. I heard the new one is pretty good. It's a 15k shield, 15k shield if you have another copy of him in the drop zone. But the counter charge is too delicious to not run, so I'm just running this instead. I will try out the 15k guard, purple guard later on probably. 15k it is kind of useful sometimes. That's really late game when you don't have enough cards to discard. It's decent. For triggers, we're running 8 crit, 4 draws. These are pretty clutch. Getting rid of our opponent's good starting Vanguards are very important. So if you get one of these early game, it'll help. Also, getting those early draws to get your combo pieces to our retire opponent is also useful. So running 4 of these instead of stands, and running 4 heals. And next we're running for the G zone. I haven't done a deck profile in a long time because work schedule has been pretty hectic lately. I'm almost working a full-time schedule, even though I'm working as a part-time. So that's the reason why I haven't had time to playtest, as well as the lack of videos lately. I apologize for that. I did post the date for the live stream already on my social media sites, like Tumblr and Facebook, so you guys can check those out. It's pretty soon, so you better check that out before you miss it. Alright, so next for the G zone, we're running 4 of obviously the new grade 4. I think his name, let me check his name real quick. Flare Arms, yes, Ziegenberg. So this card has the Blaze ability, and that's helpful sometimes. It's not too hard to do since you have so many rear guards with Blaze already, but it's alright. So the first skill is, once returned, so lost 1. Choose a card face down from your G zone, and with the save, this card and flip it face up, and then you can choose one of your opponent's rear guards to retire it. You might need it sometimes if you want to wipe up all of your opponent's field, just so you can restand for free. The next skill is, once returned, generate 3, counter loss 1. Choose the same number of cards from your hand as the number of your opponent's rear guards and discard them. At the end of the battle that this card attacked, if this unit is blazing, you may pay the cost. If you do, stand this unit, and it loses twin drive, so it only gets 1 drive. 1 drive check. It's fine. It's pretty good for a potential free, no discard restand. But if your opponent has 1 or 2 units, then you might discard 1 or 2. Usually, they'll have around 1 to 2 units. If you have a really good hand, you can just make it 0. Or if you're up against a matchup against a deck that doesn't really have a lot of replenishing power, like again, I don't know, something like Dimensional Robos or something like that. So yeah, Dimensional Polo is probably not a good example, since they can Superior Call, but they can't do it all the time. But anyway, enough about that. the new card. It's pretty fun to play. It's really fun to. You can potentially restand 4 times with this guy because you don't need to flip himself for the second skill, which is the restand skill. But a lot of times you will be using the first skill just to get rid of your opponent's units to discard 1 less card. So that's fine. Next, we're running one Mustafa. We're running one of these. Mainly, you can flip a card with him. Mainly flip a card. So his skill is once per turn, kind of lost 1, G flip 1 card, and then choose from your opponent's rear guards and retire it for every number or for any number of Mustafas you have face up. And then for every number of Mustafas you have face up, you get a new skill, and that's Vanguard rear guard circle. Whenever a unit attack hits, you can unflip a damage. So Mustafa is mainly here for that retire 1, just so for that kind of lost 1. It's a guarantee retired, so that's why some people might like to use it over Vortex. I'm running 1 Vortex just because it does put pressure on your opponent, and it depends on how much your opponent has on the field, as well as the importance of the units they have. If they have something really strong, like a Blaster Blade or something, then I'm probably gonna get rid of it with Mustafa. If they have like 2 really unimportant regards, then I might just use Vortex to get the retire for the on-hit retire without playing any counterblast. So there's that. And yeah. Next, we're running one of the GB8 Blazing Burst Dragon. So it's a GB8. When this card attacks, retire all of your opponent's rear guards, and all your rear guards gets plus 10k power. If 3 or more units are retired during this turn, this card gets plus 10,000 power and an extra critical. So it's a pretty powerful card. This card does G-flip a lot, so it's not hard to get the GB8 since almost all your strides can G-flip or, benefit from G-flipping. So it's not hard to get a GB8 at all. And next, running 4 of the Blademaster Titans. It's a pretty good card. It has an extra crit. That's put your pressure on your opponent, and you can retire units with it. So it's pretty good. 4/4. I was running Novell before, but Novell I find it not very useful, so I just cut Novell for an extra G guard and Mustafa. So for the G guards, running the new G guard from the set. It does come in a rare, but I'm running the SP one again because I have the SP pack, and I don't want to run a rare one if I have an SP one. So the skill for this card is when this card is placed on a rear guard circle, when your Vanguard's being attacked by a Vanguard, during the battle, you can call it when this card is placed on Guardian Circle. You can pay the cost, and for every empty rearguard circle your opponent has, the card gets plus 10k power. So the limitation is it has to be a Vanguard attack on Vanguard attack, but that's fine because it gains so much power. It's not very worth to guard against a non Vanguard attack. Since your opponent, of course they can replenish their field, but against decks that can't replenish again, it is very useful. And yeah, running one, it does come in handy sometimes. And I'm running one of the Fighters Collection G Guard. So the skill is Soul Blast 1, G Flip 1 G Guard. We're just listed on a Guardian Circle. You may pay the cost if you do. Retire your opponent's grade 1 or less rested rearguards, and retire it. So it's okay, but you do get a G flip with that, so you can get the GB8 faster if you need to. So that's always something people want to do, and I can see why. So next we are running or I think it's our Protect Dragon. So mainly running this just because it's a free G guard. It's probably the G guard I'll use the least because it's not that great. I mean, it has its uses, so I will run one. And next, running 2 Denial Griffin. Denial Griffin is too good not to run. Of course, this does not work on Blaster Blade if they have Ganslot face up, but it's fine. So, yeah. So, 2 Denial Griffin. So, running 5 G guards, mainly because I want some variety. And if you do use this and the last one, you can just use this and flip this if you want. So, you still have an option. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this deck profile. I'm sorry if it took so long. Again, I've been very, very busy, so I don't have much time to post content up. And I'll be going to Japan next week. So, yeah, busy with that stuff too. But yeah, anyway, this is Card Taco, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!